In part two of this four-part series, we will be discussing iteration as it pertains to triggering multiple doors. Let's take a look. So here I've set up trigger volume with multiple doors that will open and trigger a sound along with the particle system, which we will be discussing in part three of our series. So let's play and test this and check out this functionality. So we'll walk on over to the trigger volume. First door opens, second door opens, third door opens. And once I walk down to the trigger volume down at the end, it triggers the emitter and plays a sound, a spark sound that's relative to the emitter. And let's take a look at that inside of Blueprints. I'm going to move this over so we can see what's going on with our blueprints as we walk through. And then we will create another example to show how this has been created. So let's zoom out a little bit here. And now we'll go over. Actually, let's move this over. Let's go to play. And let's see if I can put that in the picture a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead, and as we walk through the first trigger, you can see that it triggers the on actor begin overlap, and it begins the matinee. And then once I touch this last trigger volume, it actually triggers to activate the emitter and sound based on the inactiveness of the two objects, which is a sound cue and an emitter. So let's make an example. Let's create a new example of this to show you how it's done. First, we'll need trigger volumes in order to, of course, trigger our matinee. So we'll keep this all in place, but we'll go over. Let's take a look. We're going to go to our content browser, and let's also open up our modes. And our modes house our trigger volumes along with other tools that we'll need. In this case, well, our content browser will have our movable doors that we'll use and the materials that will be applied to such. So first we'll take a trigger volume and we'll drag it out here into the world, and let's get that lined up to the surface. And I am actually going to also increase the height of the trigger volume by going over to my details panel, and I'm going to increase the size of the volume on the z-axis to 256, and we'll pull that up to the surface. So now we have our trigger volume. Now we're going to place some doors here. We'll actually do the same iteration of 3 doors, but instead of moving them up, we're going to move them to the side. So I'm going to go over here to, let's go over here to our props, and we'll take, let's see, how about we take the small door, and we don't have to put we won't have to put a texture on this. It'll be a normal door here, and actually we will go ahead and in this case we'll rotate and open these doors as we walk through, as opposed to sliding. So I'm hitting the space bar to change my widget from rotation to select and move, and I'm going to line this up right in front of the trigger volume, and then I'm going to actually hold down Alt and drag on the axis here and bring out another door. I'm going to give some space here, and I'm going to drag out another door. And actually, we'll actually do some different things with each door. Actually, I'll rotate one door and open it normally. I'll slide this door here, and then actually I'll raise this one up, just to give you a different, show you the that there are a variety of things you can do in Matinee with your objects. Now, I can place another. I'm going to place another trigger volume out here at the end. Let's raise it up. Let's give it a height of 256. Let's raise that up to the surface here. Now we're going to go over to particles, and instead of using the sparks this time, we're going to use let's just use some smoke. We don't want to burn our player, so let's put that there. And as you can see, we'll put that on the ground instead of above us so we can see it when it comes on. Actually, yeah, we'll leave that there. And we can't necessarily say that there's any sounds related to smoke, but let's take a look at what we have. So we have a smoke cue here, and let's listen in on how that sounds. Okay, sure. So we'll use this smoke sound, and we'll place this out in the world right next to it. Now, if we start the level, right now by default, both of these things are set to automatically activate when the level is loaded. We're going to actually uncheck the auto activate on both of these items so that we can control when we turn these off, or on and off. So what we'll do is, now we're going to go back over here to the beginning, and what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and when we relate, usually when you relate an object to Matinee, you usually like to have one selected, but you don't have to, but it's a forced habit of mine working in Unreal. But we're going to go ahead and select Matinee. We're going to add a Matinee, and when you add a Matinee, this is what you get. It's a timeline here, and it's a very robust system that will allow you to manipulate objects based on time. So what we're going to do first is, let me move this off the screen for a second. I'm going to, let's bring our Matinee over here so we know it's related to the objects here. I'm just going to put it right here in front of this door here. Okay, so with this first door selected, I'm going to go ahead, and from here, first I'm going to add a directors group. It's something that I like to get used to doing as a default. So if I wanted to, add in any camera controls or anything like that, I can do so. Next, I'm going to add a new empty group, and I'm going to call it door 01. Of course, that'll be our first door. And from there, I'll right-click on that line, and I'm going to add a movement track. I'm sorry. So once I add that movement track, and actually it should have added the first keyframe for that movement, but that's okay. We're going to add that back in. So let's go ahead and we're going to delete this track and delete this group for now, and let's start over. So let's grab our door, we're going to add an empty group, call it door 01, and then we're going to add a movement track. And as you can see, we added our movement track and it added our first keyframe. That first keyframe is the beginning of our animation for our door. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, we're asking ourselves, how long do we want to take for this door to open? In this case, just for the sake of the example, we're going to say, let's take 2 seconds for this door to open. So what we're going to do is move our scrub down to 2 seconds. And then I'm going to add a keyframe. Once I've added that keyframe, I can now, in this case, rotate my door open. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to press the space bar to get rotate, and then I'm going to actually rotate this door 90 degrees. And now I should be able to actually take a look and scrub my time, and as you can see, let's move that a little more. So as you can see, as I scrub, I can open the door. So that's our first door. So now we're going to take our second door and add that and open that as we get to the 2 second mark for our second, as our first door is opening. So let's do that now. So we're going to grab our second door, and we said we were going to slide this to the left. We'll slide this to the left for this one. So we have the door selected. Let's go ahead and right click. We're going to add a new empty group. Call this door 02. Right click and add a movement track. And so we don't want door 2 opening at the same time as door 1. So we're actually going to first take our first keyframe and set the time to 2 seconds. Then we're going to move our scrub. We're going to scrub over to 4 seconds. And we're going to add our keyframe there. Once we add our keyframe there, now I'll take the door and slide it over. Let's test what we have so far. So if I scrub back, start, 2 seconds to open first door, 2 seconds to open the second door, which is sliding. Now we'll finish up our third door by raising that up. So let's select that door. Let's go over, right click, add a new empty group, call it door 03. Right click and add a movement track. And of course we want this door to start at the 4 second mark, so we're going to right click on our keyframe. Let's see if we can get right on our keyframe. Set the time. We're going to set this to 4. We're going to scrub down to 6. And actually by default our matinee is 5 seconds long. We'll grab the pink triangle and move it down to 6 seconds. And then we'll move our scrub down to 6 seconds, add our keyframe, and now we're actually going to move this door up. And we'll move it up a little more just to make sure our player can clear it. And now let's test it. Oops. Let's go back. Now let's test it. Let's pull over our matinee. We're going to scrub. Oops. Oops, I apologize. Let's just move this over a little bit. And we're going to scrub all the way back to the beginning. And let's move out so you can see that. So from the beginning, door opens, slides up, and that's what we have so far. So now what we'll do is now we'll create, we will add our matinee to our blueprint level blueprint, in order to activate this function. So let's go ahead, we're going to close our matinee, and we're going to save our file. And now we'll go over to our blueprints here. And first, we'll select our matinee that we want to play. And we're going to select all of this and create a comment, and we're going to call this our first matinee. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a second one here. First, we'll select play. We'll type in play to search for play, and this here will actually put out our function and associated variable to our matinee. So once we do that, now we can grab we'll grab our trigger volume, and then we will right click and we will do a search for on actor begin overlap, and we'll connect that to the play, so that when we overlap, when the player begins overlap of the trigger volume, it will play the matinee. So let's go ahead and compile. We'll save all. And let's go ahead and first let's test this. So let's take a look. And go over here to trigger volume. Door opens, door slides, door moves up, and we're done. But we're not complete, we're not finished yet. We need to activate our emitter and sound for our smoke. So now we'll select our trigger volume for the end. And we'll actually right click, and we're going to actually do another search for on actor begin overlap, and then what we're going to do is we're going to select our emitter, and we're going to do a toggle active. So we're going to right click, we're going to do a search for toggle active, and what that is of course going to do is trigger this function to turn on, to toggle on the smoke. Now we're actually also going to select our sound, and in this case, because it's audio, we're going to play our audio. So we're going to do a search on play, and what's going to happen is we're going to sequence in our toggling active, toggling our smoke on, and then toggling the playing of our sound that's associated with our smoke. Let's compile, save all. Let's go ahead and play. Let's test. So we'll walk through. Door rotates open, door slides, door moves up. We walk into our trigger volume, and as you can see, our smoke emitter is triggered with a smoke sound. And there you have it. Thank you for watching.